things, but they would never speak out because it could damage their career.
Right.
And
That's
it really
what's going
can.
on now.
They will fucking...
Hollywood had a secret weapon in the 1950s. It wasn't a camera trick or a special lens. It was a man named Henry Wilson, a talent agent who collected the most beautiful men in America and turned them into stars. He gave them fake names. He put them on magazine covers. And when their secrets threatened to come apart, he traded one man's life to save another's. 3 of the men on this list were his clients. One of them had his deepest secret sold to a scandal magazine to protect a bigger name. And one of them took that secret to his grave. By the end of this video, you'll know which 3 and what it cost them. But this isn't just about secrets. This is about 10 faces that stopped women cold. 10 men who walked onto Western sets and made the cameras forget anyone else was in the shot. Some of them were the toughest men in Hollywood. Some of them couldn't throw a punch. And some of them paid a price for their beauty that no one ever talks about. Here are the 10 most handsome Western actors of all time. Number 1, the ex-con discovered on horseback. Rory Calhoun was 6'4", dark-haired, lean, and had a jawline that looked like it had been carved out of the side of a mountain. But the real story wasn't his face. It was what he was doing before Hollywood found him. He was riding a horse through the Hollywood Hills when actor Alan Ladd's wife and agent Sue Carroll spotted him from a car. She didn't know his name. She didn't know his story. She just saw a man on horseback who looked like he belonged on a movie poster. What she didn't know was that this man had spent time in reform school, been arrested for car theft, and served time in prison. His real name was Francis Timothy McCown. David O. Selznick renamed him, told him Leos are lions and lions roar, and sent him to premieres on Lana Turner's arm. By the mid-1950s, Calhoun was starring in westerns and dating some of the most famous women in Hollywood. Turner, Rita Hayworth, Yvonne DiCarlo. He reportedly once fired a gun in the direction of co-star Corinne Calvette. And then in May 1955, a scandal magazine called Confidential published his entire criminal record. But here's the thing. That story wasn't supposed to be about him. It was fed to the magazine by his own agent, a man named Henry Wilson. And the reason Wilson sacrificed Calhoun's reputation will become clear later in this video. The strangest part? The criminal past only made him more attractive. The bad boy on horseback became the bad boy with receipts, and his audience loved him for it. But if Calhoun was the bad boy, the next man on this list was the opposite. So clean-cut, it almost hurt. What happens when the man behind the badge is more beautiful than the legend he plays? Number 2, the Marine who became Wyatt Earp. Hugh O'Brien was described as being as ruggedly handsome as any man has the right to be. Tall, jet black hair, square jaw, and an athletic grace that came from being the youngest drill instructor in the history of the United States Marines. When he landed the role of Wyatt Earp in 1955, the show became a top 10 hit for 6 straight years. His fan mail required a dedicated assistant. The producer's 12-year-old daughter answered it because no one else could keep up. O'Brien won a Golden Globe for Most Promising Newcomer and spent the next decade as one of the most photographed bachelors in Hollywood. He dated dozens of women. He never married until he was 81 years old. The joke in Hollywood was that Hugh O'Brien didn't need a script. He just needed to stand in the doorway. But behind that confident image was a man who understood something most handsome actors didn't. He knew the face would fade. So he founded the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Foundation in 1958, which has since served over 500,000 young people. The prettiest Wyatt Earp used his fame to build something that would outlast his looks. But O'Brien's silver-haired handsomeness was one kind of beauty. The next man on this list had a completely different weapon. Prematurely gray hair, a voice like thunder, and a death that shocked everyone who knew him. Number 3, the gray-haired god who died at 42, Jeff Chandler stood 6'4", with prematurely silver wavy hair, a dimpled chin, and a face that looked like it had been sculpted by someone who wanted to prove that perfection was possible. His nickname in Hollywood was Big Gray. Universal Studios built him into a leading man by pairing him with the biggest female stars of the decade: Joan Crawford, Jane Russell, Maureen O'Hara. He was Oscar-nominated for playing Cochise in Broken Arrow, the first actor nominated for portraying a Native American. O'Hara later said that Jeff was a real sweetheart, but acting with him was like acting with a broomstick. He was so handsome that it almost didn't matter whether he could act. And then, at 42, he was gone. A routine back surgery went wrong. An artery was damaged during the procedure. He received 75 pints of blood across 3 emergency operations. His family won a $1.5 million malpractice lawsuit. But no amount of money could bring back the man with the silver hair. Jeff Chandler never got to grow old. He never got to watch his beauty change or soften or deepen. He was frozen in time at his peak. And that might be the most tragic entry on this entire list. But the next man wasn't frozen. He was called the most perfect face in Hollywood. And that face came with a price he paid for the rest of his life. Number 4, the man with the perfect face. Robert Taylor was so beautiful that his 1973 biography was literally titled The Man with the Perfect Face. In 1937, he received more fan mail than any other star at MGM. That same year, the Quigley poll ranked him the number 3 box office star in America, behind only Shirley Temple and Clark Gable. When he visited Europe, the crowds were so frenzied that when he flicked a cigarette butt off a hotel balcony, the scramble to catch it injured several people. His looks opened every door in Hollywood. They also closed some doors he didn't expect. Taylor spent years trying to prove he was more than a face. He starred in Billy the Kid, Westward the Women, and eventually hosted Death Valley Days. He married Barbara Stanwyck, divorced her, and became a close friend of Ronald Reagan. But the darkest chapter had nothing to do with his looks. In 1947, Robert Taylor became one of the only major Hollywood stars captured on film testifying before the House Un-American Activities Committee. He named names. The most beautiful face in Hollywood became one of the most controversial. He died of lung cancer in 1969 at 57. 2 weeks before his death, his stepson was found dead of a drug overdose. The perfect face, the imperfect ending. And now we arrive at a man whose beauty wasn't just admired, it was a force of nature. 6'6", a chest that made cameras look small, and a heart that literally stopped once and started again. Number 5, the giant who came back from the dead. Clint Walker was built like nothing Hollywood had ever seen. 6'6", 240 pounds, a 48-inch chest, a 32-inch waist, and 17-inch biceps. A New York Times critic reviewing Fort Dobbs in 1958 called him the biggest, finest-looking Western hero ever to sag a horse, with a pair of shoulders rivaling King Kong's. He was discovered working security at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas. He stopped to change a stranger's flat tire on the way to meet Cecil B. DeMille, and still got the part. His show Cheyenne launched in 1955, and Warner Brothers quickly figured out that the fastest way to boost ratings was to take his shirt off. Then, in 1971, a skiing accident on Mammoth Mountain nearly ended everything. A ski pole pierced his heart. He was pronounced dead. Somehow, against all medical expectation, his heart started beating again. He recovered in roughly 2 months. Clint Walker didn't just have the most impressive physique on this list. He had the most impossible survival story. And he lived to 90, still towering over everyone in the room. But not every handsome man was built like a mountain. The next man on this list was 6'4", dark-haired, and hiding the biggest secret in Hollywood. Number 6, the closeted king of Hollywood. Rock Hudson was what the studios called the total package. 6'4", dark hair, sharp jawline, shoulders that filled a doorframe. A 2023 documentary called him one of the 20th century's handsomest men. He arrived in Hollywood with minimal acting talent. But his agent, Henry Wilson, didn't need talent. He needed a face. Wilson renamed him, groomed him, and turned him into the embodiment of American masculinity. Hudson was Oscar-nominated for Giant. He starred alongside John Wayne in The Undefeated. He made westerns, war films, and romantic comedies where women across America fell in love with his smile, all while hiding who he really was. Hudson was gay, in an era when being gay in Hollywood meant the end of your career. Wilson arranged a marriage to his own secretary, Phyllis Gates, to protect the image. Hudson cruised Los Angeles in a blacked-out limousine. He hosted private parties at his Beverly Hills estate that insiders called the Castle. Remember Rory Calhoun at number 1? The criminal record that Confidential magazine published? That story was fed to the magazine by Henry Wilson. The reason? To protect Rock Hudson. Wilson gave Confidential 2 lesser stories: Calhoun's prison record and Tab Hunter's arrest at a gay party, so they wouldn't publish what they really had. The biggest secret in Hollywood: that Rock Hudson, America's most handsome leading man, was gay. In July 1985, Hudson announced he had AIDS. He died that October. The man whose beauty defined an era became the face of a crisis that America was trying to ignore. And the man whose secret was traded to protect Hudson, he's next. Number 7. The Valentine King who lived a double life. Tab Hunter was blonde, blue-eyed, and muscular. The archetypal 1950s heartthrob. He admitted later that acting skill was secondary to chiseled features and a fine physique. In February 1956, he received 62,000 Valentines. 62,000. Photoplay named him their number 1 new male star. His obituary in the New York Times called him the dream date of teenage girls on several continents. His audition reportedly consisted of taking his shirt off. And it worked. But Tab Hunter was hiding the same secret as Rock Hudson. He was gay. In September 1955, Confidential ran a story about his 1950 arrest at a gathering the magazine described as a pajama party. That was the story Henry Wilson traded, alongside Calhoun's criminal past, to bury the Hudson expose. Hunter had a relationship with Anthony Perkins. He didn't come out publicly until his 2005 memoir, Tab Hunter Confidential. He was 74 years old. For 50 years, the most beautiful cowboy in America pretended to be someone he wasn't. The Valentines kept coming. The fan letters kept arriving. And the real Tab Hunter stayed hidden, behind the smile that 62,000 girls believed was meant for them. The next man on this list also had a face that launched a career from almost nothing. 3 minutes of screen time. And 43,000 letters that changed his life. Number 8. 3 minutes that made him a star. Guy Madison appeared in the 1944 film Since You Went Away for approximately 3 minutes. He played a sailor in a bowling alley. He had almost no lines. The studio reportedly received 43,000 fan letters asking who he was. His agent was Henry Wilson, the same man who managed Hudson, Hunter, and Calhoun. Wilson saw the same thing the audience saw: a square jaw, soft eyes, and a face that made you feel like you already knew him. Madison became TV's Wild Bill Hickok for 7 years. He was named Photoplay's most promising male star. Reports from that era claimed his audition for Island of Desire consisted of removing his shirt. But the idol years don't last forever. By his late 30s, the Dreamboat era was over. Madison left Hollywood for Europe, where he made spaghetti westerns, and held onto his cheekbones while the magazine covers stopped calling. His first marriage to actress Gail Russell ended in tragedy. Russell struggled with alcoholism and died at 35, alone in her apartment, surrounded by empty bottles. Madison never fully recovered from watching someone he loved destroy herself. 43,000 letters for 3 minutes of screen time. That's not a career launch. That's a face so powerful it rewrote the rules of what a single appearance could do. But if Madison was the face that launched 1,000 letters, the next man was the face that launched 1,000 arguments. Because his beauty came wrapped in something Hollywood didn't expect. Talent. Number 9. The man whose eyes changed everything. Robert Redford had golden hair, blue eyes with a slight crinkle, and a face that looked like California had invented it specifically to sell movie tickets. After Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, both teenage boys and teenage girls put his poster on their walls. He was the golden boy, the dreamboat, the man every studio wanted and every director fought over, and he hated it. Redford spent his career fighting against his own face. He turned down Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. He lost The Graduate. He had to fight to get Jeremiah Johnson because the studio said a mountain man didn't fit his glamour image. His own words. So this glamour image can be a real handicap. I never thought of myself as a glamorous guy, a handsome guy, any of that stuff. He built the Sundance Institute to prove he was more than a face. He won the Best Director Oscar for Ordinary People. He directed, produced, and mentored an entire generation of independent filmmakers who never cared what he looked like. And still, 40 years later, the first thing anyone said about Robert Redford was those eyes. He died in September 2025. The Golden Boy was 91 years old. And the debate that followed his death is the same debate that will follow this video. Because the man at number 10, the man we saved for last, had eyes that were even more famous. Number 10, the bluest eyes in the history of film. Paul Newman's eyes were so blue that a Navy colorblindness test kept him from becoming a fighter pilot. They reassigned him to Radio Man because those eyes couldn't distinguish red from green. The same eyes that would become the most famous feature in American cinema couldn't tell two colors apart. His acting coach, Lee Strasberg, reportedly said Newman could have been as great an actor as Brando if he hadn't been so handsome. Newman's own response was a joke he repeated for decades. Here lies Paul Newman, who died a failure because his eyes turned brown. He starred in HUD, Butch Cassidy, and the Sundance Kid, Hombre, and the life and times of Judge Roy Bean. In every role, that face threatened to overshadow the performance. And in every role, he fought past it with a craft that matched his looks. He married Joanne Woodward after they met on the long hot summer. They stayed together for over 50 years. When asked about his loyalty in a town where everyone cheated, he gave the most famous answer in Hollywood history. Why go out for hamburger when you have steak at home? Steve McQueen was so jealous of Newman that he turned down the Sundance role in Butch Cassidy when he couldn't get equal billing. The two men circled each other for decades, competing for the same roles, the same women, the same place, at the top of every list exactly like this one. Newman aged into silver-haired, still blue-eyed grace. He raced cars. He sold salad dressing. He gave over $600 million to charity. And he never once pretended that his beauty was anything more than an accident of genetics. The handsomest Western actor of all time wasn't the biggest or the strongest. He was the one who understood that a perfect face means nothing if you don't build something behind it. CTA. If you think we got the order wrong, tell us in the comments. This list was built to start a fight. Who did we leave out? Who should have been number 1? Hit subscribe and join the argument. Callback ending. One last thing. 3 of the men on this list were managed by the same agent, Henry Wilson. He discovered Guy Madison. He built Rock Hudson. He traded Tab Hunter's secret to save Hudson's career. And he used Rory Calhoun's criminal record as currency. 4 beautiful men. One agent pulling the strings, 3 of them hiding who they really were, and one of them paying for a secret that wasn't even his. Hollywood didn't just make these men famous, it made them into something they couldn't escape. A face on a screen, a name on a poster, a Valentine in an envelope from a girl who thought she knew who they were. She didn't. Nobody did. That was the whole point.